What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors walks into what should be a routine morning show appearance only to be ambushed by a host with a hidden agenda? That's exactly what happened when Danny DeVito sat down for an interview on Good Morning America. What began as a chance to promote a deeply personal environmental documentary quickly spiraled into one of the most explosive confrontations in live television history. It started like any other morning. Danny arrived early to the studio, chatting with the makeup crew, coffee in hand, excited to talk about the climate crisis, a subject he'd spent the last 3 years documenting. The 78-year-old actor had poured his heart, soul, and savings into the film, traveling the globe, interviewing top scientists, and shining a light on communities devastated by environmental collapse. He believed Good Morning America would be the perfect place to raise awareness. But what Danny didn't know was that George Stephanopoulos wasn't preparing questions about the documentary. Instead, he had spent the previous night digging through old controversies, tabloid rumors, off-color jokes, controversial film roles. The plan wasn't to discuss climate change. The plan was to provoke. As Danny took his seat, he was greeted warmly for the cameras. George smiled, thanked him for coming, then almost immediately shifted tone. Before Danny could even mention the documentary, George was raising questions about his career, accusing him of glorifying vice, playing corrupt characters, and questioning whether Danny's environmental advocacy was sincere or hypocritical. Danny, stunned, tried to stay composed. He reminded George and the audience that acting is storytelling, that playing villains doesn't make him one, that he was here to discuss real-world stakes, not defend fictional roles. But George pushed harder. He brought up tabloid gossip, accused Danny of using his fame to push a political agenda, questioned his integrity, his credibility, even his right to speak on environmental issues. And that's when Danny's patience, a legendary and long-tested, finally snapped. He rose from his chair. The studio went silent. Audience members sat frozen. And then, Danny let him have it. He called out the ambush for what it was, an attempt to smear a man's career for ratings. He explained the years of research, the interviews with scientists, the personal investment he'd made. And then he turned to George and said what millions were thinking: you didn't watch the documentary. You didn't do your homework. You just wanted a headline. George tried to keep his composure, but the moment was lost. Danny's righteous fury had taken over the room. The audience began to murmur, then slowly, some applauded, others nodded in agreement. Danny walked over to his chair, unclipped his mic, and turned to the cameras. I've never walked out of an interview in over 40 years. But I'm walking out of this not because I'm angry, but because this conversation doesn't deserve my time. The planet is in crisis. If you care, watch the documentary. Let the work speak for itself. And with that, he walked off the set, leaving George sitting alone, his carefully planned ambush crumbling around him. The cameras kept rolling, and the world watched as one of the most unforgettable moments in television history unfolded, raw, unfiltered, and unforgettable.